We're going to be focusing on constructionism, sport, and harm. The purpose of this particular section is really to provide students an overview of constructionist explanations of sport deviance, crime, harm, and violence. Specifically, you all are going to learn not only the basics, but also how to apply labeling theory, interpersonal and situational explanations of crime or deviance, control theories, and the newer idea of newsmaking criminology. And all of these different theories are going to be applied to our context of sport. These constructionist explanations will really help further refine and develop the working definition of sports criminology that we put together in the first section of the course. But as a quick review or just a key idea to talk about, theories simply explain or describe a phenomenon. Oftentimes, theories can be things that are very intimidating, but all they're meant to do is explain something. And if we use that simple idea as the foundation for how these different theories can help explain or describe the variety of different negative behaviors that happen to take place in sports, then it can be less intimidating, and down the line we can have more productive and fruitful conversations regarding how to eliminate these behaviors. Before we move on, though, I want to talk a little bit about constructionist thinking. Constructionist thinking, at least for our purposes, is really born out of sociology and is rooted in the idea or the notion that behavior is a social construction. What's important to that is that reactions and definitions of behaviors and emotions and all those different types of things are going to be extremely important to this mode of thinking. Behaviors are rarely good or bad, or moral and immoral, based upon their intrinsic qualities. It really is the definition of those behaviors as good or bad, or moral and immoral, by society, culture, or the groups in charge that demonizes or makes those behaviors frowned upon, reprehensible, or illegal. That means it's not necessarily the intrinsic quality of the behavior. It really is about the definition of that behavior as bad. Let's talk about two quick examples. One is in sports and one is not. The non-sport example is really one of the most basic and horrific things that you can do as a human is to take human life. Now, the interesting thing about the act of taking human life is that it's not always illegal in instances. Sometimes it's even sanctioned. If you want to think of self-defense where you're protecting yourself or your property or your loved ones from an attacker or something like that, or perhaps a nation state officially declaring war on another sovereign entity. In those instances, the sheer basic act of harming and killing someone may not be as bad based upon who's talking about it, who's thinking about it. It's really based upon the context around that behavior. Now let's take it into the realm of sports. Punching, kicking, and tackling obviously is frowned upon. But those behaviors are not necessarily bad if they're contained within the context of combat sports such as MMA or the physical sports of boxing, rugby, football, etc. Now, if you were to punch, kick, or tackle me in a classroom setting, while you might want to do that, it would still be frowned upon, right? So it's not the behavior of punching or kicking or tackling that's necessarily bad. It's the context surrounding those particular behaviors. And that really is the heart of what constructionist thinking is looking at. And it really sets a very, very strong foundation for these theories that aren't the macro theories. They're not the micro theories that deal with almost like emotions and things like that. It's right in that middle ground, that meso. It talks about how the individual and their behaviors and their activities and their feelings are in reference to a group. And it's the power of the group to define something as good or bad, legal or illegal. That really is at the heart of constructionist thinking. As always, please make sure that you're looking at the syllabus and schedule. Please make sure that you're aware of any and all class requirements, due dates, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll do whatever I can to help.